Hey everybody, happy Friday. It's practice time. I wonder if the lighting, if I do this, if that's okay. But I think everybody, you let me know if that lighting is not okay. But hey, we got 8 people tuned in. Happy Friday. Tell you what, I've been looking forward to practicing. I haven't practiced a lot today. It's been a busy teaching day for me. And I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit with you all about how I go about practicing this piece. Let me know if everybody can hear me okay. And of course, this is Chopin's Ballade number 1. Like I said, you can check out, I posted a link to that in case you want to follow along as I'm going through. For those of you that do know the piece, I hope that this is helpful to you. And for those of you that don't know the piece, maybe it's a good introduction to it, and it give you a little sense of how I go about practicing. This piece is about 8.5 minutes, something like that. So there's a lot of material to get through. I'm not going to try to practice the whole thing. These days, I don't really practice in big chunks anyway, for a variety of reasons. I kind of practice in smaller chunks over the course of the day. And I do find that actually helps me out a lot. Instead of one big, 1 hour or 2 hour chunk, often it's 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes in between students that I end up practicing. So if you know this piece well, you know that the coda at the very end is the hardest part. I'll give you a sense of what I'm talking about here. And of course, the coda of a piece of music is the last thing. Coda means I can hear. Oh, good. People can hear. That's great. So the coda in this case, this is right before it. We have. Here's the coda starts. Now, I'm not, just so you know, I'm not starting this piece out fresh. I do already know this piece. I learned it back in 2015. I'm not sight reading that. And I've come back to it probably twice now, but this is probably my third time kind of coming back to it. And so I happen to know those spots that always trip me up. And the coda is one of those starting places. I do a lot of hand separate practice with this part. That's one chunk right there. And the left hand is doing a lot of umcha, right? So that's already, I'm thinking, oh, I haven't practiced. I can feel I haven't practiced that in a while, that left hand part. So I'm just going to review, okay, what's going on with the harmony here? We got a lot of G minor. All right, so that already, okay, that's helpful. Okay, now I remember that chunk's in G minor. Good, I got that in my noggin. And then we have, after that, we have diminished 7th chord. I like to try to connect theory with when I'm practicing that way. It's not just muscle memory. And my students know that I'm not always all about muscle memory. It's good, but, practice makes permanent. So if you're playing something wrong and you slip up or whatever, it's good to rely on that theory knowledge as well. By the way, as we're looking through, please feel free to comment and everything. It really helps, like all those algorithms and stuff, more people will start to watch if you comment, even if it's, not a particularly important comment. It's just, hey, happy Friday. That helps get more people in our little community here. So G minor. Dominant 7th chord. All right. That's 4 measures there. Now I'm going to just practice. See, let's see if I can remember this part here. Not bad, but I can feel it's really shaky. I'm going to do my rule of 3 here. And I'm still going to do it slowly. Slowly is really, really good. Jake C says, love that. Practice makes permanent. Yeah, I actually learned that from one of my students. Shh, don't tell. I went too fast too soon. Did you hear it? All right, now I can feel that the first 2 measures are comfortable. It's the second 2 measures that are tripping me up a little bit. All Right, the other thing I'm noticing is that I'm starting to slouch a little bit now. We all have, I think, problems with posture. I shouldn't say that. Some people probably don't have problems with posture, but I do. So I'm going to try to take a deep breath and try to use my whole body and feel the music a little bit deeper instead of just hands and arms and fingers. I'm going to try to follow it along a little better here. Now that the music's starting to feel a little bit more part of me, okay? So that's how I would go about practicing that last section there, because a lot's going on there, the beginning of that last section. I'm going to leave that for now. I'm actually going to go back to an easier part of the piece. It's always good to kind of balance out the more strenuous stuff. I'd probably practice that a little bit longer, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to go back to a different section. I'm actually going to go back to the very beginning, a very different part of the piece. And I'm going to practice how to get this beginning. How do you get this part to be magical? He starts out with a half note. So how do I demand the attention of the listeners with that? Now, what are some suggestions? I mean, if you just start like this, that's interesting. What if I start with a pounce? That's something different. That communicates something different to you guys as well, probably. Or I could start above the key and then kind of have a rebound effect. So maybe you could comment which of those you like best. Do you have your students memorize their pieces? What are the pluses and minuses of that? Oh, great question. Thank you, Jake. I definitely encourage my students to memorize their pieces, especially in preparation for a recital. I think that's always important. We have to remember that this is just the musical map, right? This is not the true reality of a piece of music. It's the musical map. It's just like if you're using your GPS, your map. Eventually, you keep going over the same route. You're going to get to know it better. And you probably don't want to spend all the time looking at the GPS, right? Because you get to enjoy the scenery a little more as you're driving and not be so bogged down with that. That's my best example of that there. So we got more folks watching, which is great. Welcome anybody that's just joining us. Please comment and like the video too. That also helps our algorithms there. So we were just talking about how to approach that first note there. I think for me it feels pretty comfortable to do that. And then what do we have? That last part there is really interesting. I need to sing it more. To feel the trajectory of it. I think it's definitely mimicking the human voice there. Now it starts off loud and it has to kind of taper off. I'm going to think a little bit about my musical choreography here. Do I want to stay close into the piano or should I move out? By the way, when I'm practicing, I don't say these things out loud to myself necessarily. This is just me walking through kind of my thought process more or less and explaining it more in depth. I'm going to try two ways. See what you think. Guess that's kind of Quasimodo style, right? And then I'm going to try a different way. I think that feels better to me, and what I might even do is I might rewatch this back and see how does it look to the audience. Is it helping aid the music? We never want the choreography to interfere with the music. At least that's kind of my opinion. You don't want it to be too over the top, although that can be kind of fun too, but you want it to be natural. That's one thing I would practice with at the beginning, since there's not quite as many things going on as right. That was bad practice, right? And now I'm going to take a look at the first section. So that was the introduction. Here's this. And I'm going to actually just go through the harmony and remind myself, okay, what's the harmony going on here? Because I can sort of remember, but I don't want to rely on just that. Jake C says, prefer the second. That's what I think too. Yeah. Another question there. Do you plan your posture, how you attack the piano? Attack properly, not correct word. Sometimes I do, especially with beginnings. I think it's something that I can work on a little bit more. I would say more often than not, I don't plan things out, but I think it can be a good way to practice. And that way you kind of, your body is also memorizing things in a different way, which I think can be pretty interesting. So I'm going to study the harmony here and just remind myself what's going on here. Here's the original. So the harmony is broken up with the rhythm. So I'm not going to focus on the rhythm right now necessarily. I'm just going to look at the rhythm. Oh, look at the harmony. Hello. Okay, so it continues a little bit further than that, but what I like to describe that is it's like creating a stamp with your hand. You know, how do I go about practicing this? Instead of practicing it G and then B flat and D and then B flat and D, D and then D and there and G. So instead of sometimes I describe it as it's like if you're saying a sentence, you're not going to say HIHOWAREYOU, right? You're going to say hi, how are you? So it's just a way to ingrain things a little bit more. So I feel pretty comfortable with that harmony. I'm going to go ahead and take a risk since I do know the piece from, you know, a little while ago. I'm going to take the risk and get rid of the stamp method and just go through the normal, how it's written. Feels pretty comfortable. So I would go through and do that same kind of thing with the rest of the section. All right. Now I'm going to jump ahead to, I think, another one of my favorite spots. This stuff is tricky. This is around measure 105, the fortissimo, sort of full orchestra variation on the theme, this theme. And this is the full orchestra version. A lot going on in the left hand. I'm going to practice that first. I'm actually going to look at the score as I go through just to remind myself what I'm doing here. That's plenty, and that's a lot of stretchy stuff there, so you want to be careful, at least with my hand. I can reach it an octave pretty comfortably. Ninth, not so much, so I have to be careful with how much I do that stuff. Let's see. I'm going to try with my eyes closed. That's one method I like to use. I think it'd be really helpful because they get to know the topography of the keyboard pretty well. I'm going to slow it down, though. Difference there, though. Many older pianists I see on videos often don't seem to make their visual playing as important as hearing. What do you think, Horowitz? Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of there's a lot more emphasis on just the hearing. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is, I think, the most important, right? Especially since A lot of times we're just listening to recordings. But I think that they both can. I think that how it looks can really help inform the person watching too. I mean, if someone looks like they're angry all the time and they're playing, I think it affects the mood. Or if you were playing the Moonlight Sonata like this, that can really change it up a little. Unless you're trying to be a comedian about it, which I think that's one reason why classical music can be so funny, is because you can put something so out of context that it really like seems goofy, like what, or if you change something that's in usually in a minor key to a major key, if I want it instead of right, which is kind of funny. Teacher once recommended using a blindfold. Yes. Well, Mozart, his dad used to parade him around blindfolded. So if you want to use a blindfold, you could, especially if you have a tendency to kind of, let's say, I'm going to try this with my eyes closed. But then you kind of want to peek. That could be something good. So that's how I practice the left hand. And then I think when I'm working on just getting one measure sounding really good, I'd probably do my rule of 3 for each measure. And then what I'll actually do is I'll play it faster than it's supposed to be. Because that way, when I back up and play it slower, it's going to feel like a breeze. Well, not like a breeze. I shouldn't say that. Anytime I get to this part, it doesn't feel like a breeze, trust me. But in practice mode, that's what I would do. All right, so that's how I'd approach stuff in that section. We got these tricky octaves coming up here. I like to do dotted rhythm practice. So I start with long, short, long, short, long, short, and then I'll reverse it. I do short, long. This can be sort of a brain twister. So depending on how much work you want to do mentally, that's up to you. But that definitely helps me. That one feels less secure. Another way you can practice those is only practice the pinky finger, okay? Which is kind of wacky, but... weak. You're weak. You need practice. For those of you that are using 4 and 5, you could do that. 4, 5. Oh, that was better. Now notice that I'm staring at this. I shouldn't be staring at this, right? So that's another thing that can be good. Is just put it to the side. You don't need it right now, Campbell. And then you can do the opposite. You can practice with your thumb. And then together. Now I'm gonna look. That definitely feels a lot more secure. So any parts where you have those octave passages, parallel octaves, if you're practicing, let's see, what's another piece that uses it? Oh, the Tchaikovsky Piano Concerto. Well, that was sloppy. You can do that same kind of thing. Pinky, just you don't want to stress this guy out too much, right? So, it's time to give it a break. Let's see. Another passage where the left hand is... I don't think people give the left hand enough credit for what it does in this part. The right hand's actually not... Once you get the hang of it and kind of get in the groove of it, it's really not as difficult. So you begin with very difficult passage rather than always the beginning. Yes, I would say it's really important to not always start with the easy stuff first, because now you don't want to discourage yourself. You don't want to just play all hard stuff for like an hour. There are some people that practice that way. I could never really practice that way. I wanted something that I could grab onto and get to sound really good, really fast. So, I might, let's say, switch up the kind of difficult practice with this stuff maybe. gives me a little more space, a little more breathing room. And then I think it's everything's at that balancing act, right? You don't want it to be, you don't want to stress yourself out too much, right? Because you want to still be able to enjoy the practice process. And then sometimes I'll just jump to a different piece, you know. Just for fun, you know, kind of. And then it's also good to get up and walk around. Sometimes I get stressed out. It's been a long day of teaching for me, and I don't necessarily like, oh, I really want to jump to the piano and get to practicing. But once sometimes I immerse myself in it, okay, I feel better. Sometimes I just need to go outside and get a little walk in, get a little vitamin D from the sun, even though the sun's kind of getting low right now. Or get a glass of water, or, you know, have a little bone broth or something like that. That can help too. Let's see. So the left hand here, for those of you looking at the score, let's see. This is around 137. I definitely do a lot of practice with the left hand by itself. That's okay. All right, now I'm going to put on my composer's thinking cap here. Let's see, what makes this part unusual? What that kind of interval is that? I think that makes it pretty interesting. It's a little kind of on the tipsy side. So I'm gonna bring out the da-dum, bottom, 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 just for fun. Now, this is where sometimes I get in trouble. I start thinking so much like a composer that I start, you know, kind of getting nerdy about that. And I'm like, oh, you know, I wonder where that comes from. What I'm thinking is it might come from. So once I like, oh my God, it's so cool. It's so awesome. Once I get over that, I can get back to practice mode. But sometimes I go down way too many compositional rabbit holes. I guess that's different for everybody, but that's just something I thought I'd mention. All right, that's feeling pretty comfortable right now. Let's try putting them together. First step, I'm actually not going to do the jumps. I'm just going to do together with the right hand. That's a lot easier. I'm taking away that one element of difficulty in the left hand jumps. And now I'm going to try to enjoy it a little more. It was a little less good, but I had fun with it. Let's try if I can get a little more accuracy. All right, we're going to try to add the ba-da, ba-da. Brain freeze. I went too fast too soon. So that's another example. Okay, I need to get back to practicing. Smaller segments. Now I'm going to do just 2 measures. Now I'm not enjoying having to look at my left hand so much to feel assurance of where it's going. So I'm actually going to do a little eyes closed practice. Oh, I don't know this. I'm going to peek. That throws me off. That's a very strange position. Okay, I need to memorize that position. And can you memorize that position? All right, now look. And I have an idea. Maybe I'll just practice the top notes and then the bottom notes. Okay, now I have an insight. The left hand, this part here, it's that stretch. Okay, if I can figure out, okay, that's a 7th there. That's what's feeling uncomfortable to me. That's okay. So sometimes it's about isolating it down, figuring out where is the uncomfortable spots at. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think a lot of things that we focus on the things that are uncomfortable, right? It's more like, oh, I'm just going to do the things that make me comfortable. Practicing is so not like that. When you're going to have really high quality practicing, at least part of the time you got to it's like the hero's journey thing. You got to defeat the dragon if you want to get the gold. Well, here's the dragon right here, is that seventh. All right, so I think this part's fine. I'm not even going to practice that. I'm going to practice this part. See how awkward that is for the hand? It's like a weird stretching thing you got to do. And maybe I'll actually move, make it a little easier for my arm. Oh, let's see. Close my eyes. Okay, all right. I think that's more comfortable now. Aha! I like it. All right, so that definitely feels more comfortable now. But I can feel it's time to stop practicing that section there. Again, everybody's endurance is a little different. If you're, got big muscles and no problem, you can go right through it. If you got a bigger hand, right, it might not be as much of a problem. Everything's different. Also, I'm just now kind of rebuilding some of my practice endurance for solo stuff. So that's another reason why I try to be a little more careful, because I don't want to deal with any injuries. Oh, here's another spot coming up here. This spot, you guys know this spot? I remember this spot, I would always be worried about, I'm going to get caught and messed up, but at least I can always land on this chord. So if I screw it up, I can just land right on that. I have heard that some pianists actually practice away from the piano mental practice. Yes, love it, Jake C. Yeah. Hey, anybody else? I hope you add some more comments. I'd love to hear some more comments from you guys. We got 17 people watching. We got 6 thumbs up, which is awesome. It could be some people are on the Patreon page or something, which could be maybe they're posting stuff underneath there, which I can't see those right now. I can only see the live chat from YouTube. I do try to do a lot of mental practice. Now, that's kind of a strange thing that if you haven't done it before, it's a little hard to describe. Often, when I'm first learning a piece of music, other than, kind of going to the piano and getting familiar with some of the tricky spots, I will spend time away from the piano and just, analyze the harmony, try to audiate it. Now, audiating is something that you get better at with practice. If you have perfect pitch, it's a heck of a lot easier. I'm fortunate that I have perfect pitch, or if you have really good relative pitch, right? You can kind of go to the piano. All right, let's say you want to practice on kind of audiating a really beautiful sound world. So I'm going to forget this part for a second. I'm going to go to a spot where, let's say I want to work on this part here. All right, and if I want to, instead of going to the piano and actually physically playing it, I'm going to try to audiate it. Now, I can't really tell you what's going on in my head, right? Because thoughts are a really strange thing. But I'm going to try to imagine a sound world. And then I might go to the piano and, okay, let me see. Let me imagine how much pedal do I want? And it's some kind of strange, it's like musical magic in a way that it's, if you audiate it first, right? If you hear it first, then sometime, not all the times, you're able to play it more effectively and it comes across as what you were hearing to begin with. It's an interesting form of memorization. How does one tell if he has perfect pitch? Well, what is that? C. What is that? D. What is that? F sharp. You can go there. You can look at tonedear.com if you want to practice your ear training. You can do stuff like that. So basically, if you hear a sound and you know what note it is on, and whether they're sharps or flats, that kind of thing. Some people have more heightened perfect pitch, where is that a 440, right? So how many hertz is that? Now, some people get really turned off. They're like, oh my gosh, it's like 5 hertz off. It's the worst thing ever. So some people are more sensitive to that. I think classical musicians tend to be a little kind of perfect pitch, about it. And they might say, oh, that piano is so out of tune. That bothers me, but that's because the piano, the 3 strings, one of the strings is off. So it's a little out of tune. But if I'm not like calculating, oh my gosh, that's exactly this many hertz and blah, blah, blah. So even perfect pitch comes in different shapes and sizes. I just noticed I'm using a Christmas mug. I guess I secretly wish it was Christmas time. One of my students was playing a Christmas pizza, and I was like, what? did a Christmas piece today. I like all that stuff. All right, so I'm going to go back to that spot I was talking about. Remember when I talked about the stamp, creating a stamp with your hand, this stuff here? That's what I'm going to do here. So the main thing is the right hand's playing broken intervals. It's like scrambled eggs. It's like really like, whoa, what are you doing, Chopin? It's in this part, I think really it's spinning out of control, and he wants it to spin out of control. That's the feeling he wants it to get. If you're the performer, you don't want it to spin out of control, right? So this is how I'm going to practice it. Solid intervals on the right hand, first of all. Okay, not too bad. I'm going to see if I can memorize it. All right, what am I going to do, folks? Put it over here. Don't cheat, Jen. Don't cheat. Feel too bad. I'm going to add the left hand to it. Left hand's just playing octaves. All right, I noticed something interesting. And anytime, folks, if you can notice any patterns possible, I'm noticing that it's meeting, the hands are meeting together on certain notes. E flat, it's meeting on E flat. I like that. Any kind of commonality between right hand and left hand, good, go for it, right? Here's F, that's good. Again on F, they're meeting, that's nice. Okay, now I'm starting to see the pattern, right? You see what's going on there. So the right hand, left hand are meeting up at certain points here, which is really good. So that's, again, something that would be helpful with that. And then I go on to practice. Okay, now I'm going to think about posture. You notice my arms, time to sit up. And at this point, I might get up and stretch a little bit, right? Forgive my casual outfit here, but I want to be comfortable. So I might kind of get up and stretch a little bit, move around a little bit. Always good. And if I wasn't doing a live stream, I might actually just, walk around outside a little bit, get a little fresh air. Fresh air is good. We need that fresh air for our lungs, right? Breathe deeply. And then I think I'm going to figure out, how am I going to sit here? I don't have many choices. I'm not going to move around a whole lot, because I want my center of gravity to be kind of right here in front of the keys. So I'm going to do it in slow motion. Let's see where I can go. Off from the bottom part of me. I want to get a little bit of that into the keys here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot back so I can kind of lean on my left foot. That way I can get more of my weight into the keys, and that way my arms can kind of do a follow through, okay, on that last chord. And I can take a little time for that last chord. I think it's got fortissimo. It packs a little bit of a punch. But other than that, I'm just kind of going to gradually move up the keys, I think. I'm pleasantly glad that I'm remembering some of that stuff there. We like that. Yay. All right. I'm actually going to try to play this page here. I think that would be helpful for me. So I'm going to start from the little carnival music stuff here. The stuff that I practiced was okay. The stuff that I didn't practice, did you hear it? This stuff? Right? Mike Whalen. Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us. You just start playing two hands. Don't you have to count on something to get them together? Like in Bach, they're hanging long notes on a subdivision. That's a great question, Mike. Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, in some cases, it depends what's going on, right? With Bach, you do have a lot of, let's say you have, kind of two layers in one hand. For example, the G minor prelude from the first book. That prelude, you got two different layers in the left hand. So already you're having to balance those two things. In this case, the right hand's just playing a trill. With the Chopin, some things are more linear, some things aren't. So let's see, do I have to count things like the beginning? That's pretty good to put the hands together, right? Right, Mike? Because it's two parallel voices. Now, stuff like this, yes, it would probably be a good idea to count that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. And then there's some other stuff it's just streams of eighth notes, right? When you have, when you have stuff like, it's straight quarter notes in the left hand and then straight eighth notes in the right hand. So some of the stuff lines up pretty well. Some of the stuff doesn't. For example, when are you supposed to put the left hand parts for this? So you might be really careful. Okay, let me just figure out exactly where I'm putting these here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. And I highly suggest that. I know people don't like counting out loud, but it can be helpful. I had a great teacher, a chamber music teacher, that said, sometimes you can use words or phrases. That way you can come up with, instead of thinking just in numbers. Let's see. What's a phrase you could come up with that? Now I am home, and now I am home, or now here I come, now here I come. Things like that, right? Totally cool. Never did live stream. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're here for the live stream. And let's see. Do you use a metronome, Jen, or count out loud? Here is the metronome. Another good thing you can use. This is Frankenstein metronome. It's had many a fall. I haven't smashed it yet. It still works. I would suggest doing metronome work with things like this. And then you can gradually work your way up. The kind of slow and steady wins the race method is always a good thing to do. And another spot, let's see. Okay, and speaking of that spot, at this point, I would probably go back to that spot and try to remember, okay, did I get all my notes right and everything like that? And then I might work on one of those other difficult spots at the end of the piece. I call this the happy birthday spot. Happy birthday. Talk about counting. Where the heck does that F sharp come in, right? But here's the happy birthday to you. And how do we fit that in with the timing? I actually have lines written in where that fits. The right hand's playing sextuplets. That's 6 of those eighth notes in a grouping of 1/2 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I didn't count that quite right. It's more like 1, 2, but you have, I guess, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So some of it's just technical, get down and work with it, where exactly the things line up. I'm really glad that Mike, you brought up that point. Thank you. And then practice. Hey, this is one reason, folks, to practice your chromatic scales. And if you don't enjoy practicing chromatic scales, you can learn this piece. Okay, we'll have fun with that, right? I really do enjoy live streams. I enjoy live streams too. Yeah. And I want to hear from you whether this is like, do you want to see me practicing, or are you just like, it's okay, but I really like your music. Music is better. I like to do a lot of different stuff, as you all know, on this channel. So let me know what you like, and maybe, if you have any suggestions. I'd love to hear from all of you. Love to hear from all of you. We won't go too much longer here. The very end, this, again, another reason to practice your scales. Not very good. I have to confess here, and if my old teachers are listening, I really didn't like practicing scales. And I really didn't practice scales very much until a lot later. I thought, well, if I get a scale and a piece, I'll just work on it then. Really important to practice the scales, but not in your typical way. Don't just go. I think there are more interesting ways to practice scales. I think practicing in groups, smaller groups, that way you can really figure out, okay, where are the tricky spots? Again, you're isolating the problem areas or the spots that are more difficult. So in this case, okay, the tricky part is that these are a tenth apart. So I'm actually just going to practice. 5 notes at a time. I'll try again. All right, I need to make sure that I'm starting with the right fingers while I'm at a practice. All right, that's getting better. Now I'm going to pay attention to my posture. All right, that's not too bad. Now I'm going to put them together. That's better. Now I'm going to balance it out. I'm going to have the left hand play louder than the right hand. Okay, and then I have the right hand practice louder than the left hand. Now for fun, I'm going to take it up here. That can be a good too. When you do octave displacement, you play something in a different octave. It really reveals new truths, so to speak, of wait, which note is the right hand kind of helping left hand out in. Now I'm noticing that my F sharp to G could be a little better. And this also sharpens your ears, right? It's good to sharpen your ears. So that's one way you can practice the scales. Again, I'm going to do the dotted rhythm practice. That's really helpful. If you want to, you can do, let's say I'm just going to do a regular G minor scale. Do 2 octaves with eighth notes. Ooh, I missed a note. That's pretty bad. And then I'll do triplets, but 3 octaves each. And then 16th notes for 4 octaves. And if you want to have fun, you could do right hand does 16ths, left hand does triplets. That'd be 4 against 3. Ooh, triplets, and then 8th in the right and the left hand. Let's see. That's more of a challenge. It's kind of fun to do that. I can't believe I'm doing a live stream talking about scales. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So there you have it. You can practice scales in some unusual ways. Maybe I'll do a video on some practicing some scales stuff. How are we doing on time here? All right, let's see. I'm going to do one more section. Let's see one of my favorite other sections here. Actually, no, I'm actually avoiding a certain section. Here's the section I'm avoiding. I always have trouble with this stuff here. Here it is. And I'm not going to play it because I know I'm going to mess it up. So I need to look at the right hand. The right hand is just, it's kind of another musical tongue twister, so to speak. So I'm just going to review it first. I'm going to use the stamp method, right? I'm going to look at the intervals first. At least there's a pattern. All right. Let's see when I do it. All right, I noticed that I don't know what my ear wants to follow there. That might be purposeful on Chopin's behalf. Chopin, he might have done it on purpose, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, all right, there's something now my ear can follow. Very good. Okay, thank you, Chopin. I often wonder how did Chopin come up with this stuff? Did it come out naturally to him, or was he, did he have to work to figure out? Let's see, how am I going to make this difficult for the pianist? 200 years later, human tendency to avoid the difficult. So true, Jen. Yes, it is. Yes, and we should embrace the difficulties, right? Again, you got to get the gold by defeating the dragon, right? All that kind of good stuff. Think about, I was listening to somebody recently talking about, the whole idea of like having a safe zone or something like that, right? It's kind of, if you get so comfortable, you're like Frodo that never leaves, right? He stays in his comfy hobbit hole and he never goes out on his adventure. He never meets, all these amazing people, and he never defeats evil, right? He never throws the ring in all the stuff, 3 movies later, Lord of the Rings, it's great stuff. And those books are awesome. But think about that, it's in a kind of musical practice kind of way. Don't stay in the Shire, right? You'll get to come back home at the end. But you have to go on an adventure, and that's the thing I love about music, is that you can go on an adventure, right here with this instrument. And I get to share these adventures with you guys. It's really awesome. Okay, so that's the first step I would do with that stuff. Now the left hand, here's a spot where, I need to figure out where the left hand lines up with the right hand. All right, not too bad. But I can feel now this is a spot that's not going to, kind of just fix itself in one practice session. Oh, but none of this is going to fix itself in one practice session. But again, I'm coming back to this after, I've played it. I've studied it a lot for a long time ago. This is one of the pieces I played for a master's degree recital at Peabody. And my teacher worked me hard on this piece. So there's a lot of that kind of memory that's coming back to my fingers and to my mind and everything. But this spot is one of those ones that I'm going to have to come back to it probably at least twice a day the next week if I want to be successful with it and not feel like, oh no, there's that spot, right? I'm going to divide it up. I can already tell I'm going to make a mistake. Isn't it amazing we can kind of tell when you're going to make a mistake? That's like your fingers somehow know, stop. Your brain has to say, stop. You're going to make a mistake. So here's what I'm going to do. One measure. Gosh, even one measured, I still made a mistake. Gotta slow it down. And I would go through each measure like that and kind of go through there. You mentioned is one of your other videos, the butterfly breaking through the cocoon. Strength through adversity. Yeah, right. The butterfly, yeah, it has to endure that in order to get out and fly, right? We don't always like it when we're stuck in the cocoon, though. I know I don't. So that's how I would go about practicing that spot. All right, for fun, I'm going to practice. I do have a recording of this on the YouTube channel. Check it out. I do have a full recording of this, the Ballade. I hope you'll check it out. I think I posted it a few months ago, but check it out. It's the whole thing. I'm not going to play the whole thing for you right now because I need to practice it. But maybe I'll just play the first 2 pages of it for all of you. And then we'll call it a night, yeah? And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. All right. Looking forward to hearing you play. Thank you. All right. Now I didn't think, I just went for it. Think first. That's one other thing. When you're practicing the very beginning of a piece, try to audiate it. What do you want the first 2 measures to sound like before you play? it's an amazing piece of music. I really think I think you'll enjoy hearing it. And it doesn't have to be my recording. Please check out some other recordings. There's it's an amazing thing about YouTube or any of these video platforms. You got so many recordings to choose from. So check it out. Compare, and if you're working on the piece, go on a listening tour. You got so many great composers. Well, yeah, great composers out there, but also great performers out there. And some of the best performances, honestly, are not necessarily from famous people that I've found. I think it's amazing, really. I want to hear you play the complete Ballade. How do I find that recording? It's on my channel. Just search. If you go to my channel, it's on one of my playlists. But if you go to my channel and you just search Chopin Ballade #1, or just put any search bar on YouTube, Chopin Ballade #1, Jennifer Campbell. I don't think there are any other Jennifer Campbells playing this. There is a Celtic violinist named Jennifer Campbell that actually lives in the same area. It's funny. I actually had one person come up to me after a concert and was like, "Oh, you're not that Jennifer Campbell." And I was like, "Sorry to disappoint you. I'm not playing Celtic violin today." Treat to play with all of you. Oh, it says the connection is unstable. Can everybody still hear me? It said the connection was unstable. What? Maybe it's Chopin the same. All right, everybody. Well, hey, have a wonderful, blessed weekend, okay? And keep practicing. And let me know if you want to do another practice live stream. I had a lot of fun doing this today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks to all of you. At one point, we had, I think, 18 or 19 people joining us, which is awesome. Let me know if you want me to do more live streams. Yes, you can hear. Good. It's good to hear. Yes, hear with both ears. Good. So enjoy your weekend and practice well. And I'll look forward to seeing you next time, everybody. All right, take care. And ending in 3, 2, 1.